Hi guys, welcome to our video. We are going to discuss the lessons about week 5 and 6. I'm Genesis Eve D. Paras and i-discuss ko sa inyo ngayon on how to write expressions with rational exponents as radicals and vice versa. We learned before na ang expression with a rational exponent is written as a raised to m over n. Lahat ng expressions na ganyan ang itsura ay tinatawag ding exponential form. Kapag ang denominator ng exponent na to ay greater than 1, it can be written as radical form or radical expression. Now, upang ang exponential form ay maging radical form, kukopyahin natin yung base niya tsaka yung numerator ng exponent. Dalhin mo siya sa loob ng radical sign at yung buong yon ay tinatawag na radicand. Then, yung denominator na n ng exponential form ay kukopyahin din natin dito at yan ay tatawagin natin bilang index. Para maintindihan natin ay magbigay tayo ng example. 7 raised to 2 over 5. Anong gagawin natin? First, i-identify muna natin kung anong denominator ng exponent. Diba 5 siya? Yun ang magiging index natin. That will be fifth root. Fifth root of what? Kokopyahin natin yung base sa 7 tsaka yung 2, magiging exponent sa radicand. Then you're done. Ganon lang siya kadali. Ganon lang magsulat ng expressions in radical form. Paano naman kung baliktad? Now, ituturo ko naman sa inyo kung paano isulat ang expression in exponential form. Ang given na ito ay isang radical expression at gagawin natin siyang exponential form. Fourth root of 8 cube. Anong gagawin natin? Copy lang natin yung radicand na 8 cube. Yan ay magiging 8. Then yung 3, iabang natin dito because yan ay magiging numerator ng exponent. Kaya magiging 8 raised to 3 over what? Over the index of the given which is 4, kaya magiging 8 raised to 3 over 4. Then you're done. Ganon lang siya kadali. Now, I'm going to discuss the derivation of the laws of radicals and their application. Here are the laws of radicals. It is important to know how these rules are derived as they are the basis in simplifying radical expressions. For rule number 1, what will you do if you encounter this? To understand kung anong gagawin rito, tignan natin ang derivation niya. Una, ang radical expression na nasa loob ng parenthesis ay ginawa niyang exponential form. This will become a raised to 1 over n. Using raising a power to a power rule, yung exponent sa loob at sa labas ay ipagmumultiply natin. Kaya yan ay magiging a raised to n over n. N over n is equals to 1, kaya ang magiging answer lang dito ay a. To understand better, here is a example. The quantity 5th root of 4 raised to the 5th power. Because the index and power is the same, that's why the final answer is the base, which is 6. The square root of 3x squared. Get the absolute value, that's why the answer is simply 3x squared. Rule number 2. If a is a real number and m and n are integers for which the nth root of a is real, then anong gagawin natin sa ganyan? Una, kinuha ang exponential form ng radical expression na yan, which is a raised to m over n. Then, finactor out yung m, kaya nilabas sa parenthesis, kaya magiging a raised to 1 over n raised to m. Then, yung nasa loob ng parenthesis, ginawa niyang radical form, yan ay magiging nth root of a raised to m. Here is a example. The cube root of 4 squared. Base sa rule number 2, pwede mo na siyang isulat ng ganito. Then you're done. Rule number 3. For any positive integer n and real numbers a and b. Ano kaya po pwedeng gawin sa mga ganyan? Una, ginawa niyang exponential form yung radical form, kaya mayroon tayong the quantity ab. Then using raising a product to a power rule, yung a at b ay parehas sa makakatanggap ng 1 over n. Then ginawa niya ng radical form yung bawat factor. Yun ay magiging nth root of a and nth root of b. Here is a example. The square root of 75. Base sa rule number 3, ang square root of 75 ay pwedeng gawing ganyan. Dahil perfect square ang 25 ay pwede siyang lumabas kaya ito'y magiging 5 the square root of 3. Rule number 4. For any positive integer and any real number a and b is not equal to 0. First, yung radical form ay ginawa niyang exponential form. That's why it will be the quantity a over b raised to 1 over n. Then using raising a quotient to a power rule, the numerator and denominator will both get 1 over n. Then yung numerator and denominator ay same na exponential form, which pwedeng maging radical forms pareho. Ayan siya. Nth root of a over nth root of b. To understand better, here is an example, the square root of 13 over 16. Ang sagot ay magiging the square root of 13 over 4. Rule number 5, if m and n are positive integers which all of the following roots are real, then the mth root of nth root of a. Kagaya kanina, una kukunin natin yung exponential form ng radical expression but unahin natin yung nasa loob kaya yan ay magiging the nth root of a raised to 1 over n. Tas kukunin natin yung exponential form kaya magiging a raised to 1 over n raised to 1 over m. Using raising a power to a power rule, magiging a raised to 1 over mn. At pwede na tayo bumalik sa radical form kaya yan ay magiging mnth root of a. Here is a example, the sixth root of 8. Magiging the square root of the cube root of 8 and the final answer is the square root of 2. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Keisha Winter. Welcome! Today we are going to tackle about simplifying radical expressions and on how to use it. A radical expression is in simplified form 1. There are not perfect nth powers as factors of a radical. There are no fractions inside the radical, and there are no radicals in a denominator. Let us have a basic example for simplifying. The square root of 81. What number if you multiply it to itself, the outcome will become 81? Answer, 9. Take note, just because 9 is a perfect square, you can't put the radical sign. Why? Because you already performed an operation of a radical. Now let us simplify radical expressions. We have here a first example, the square root of x to the 9th power. How? I-break down muna natin ang x to the 9th power. Kaya naman i-copy natin ang radical sign, ang square root of. Ngayon, ano ang multiple ng 2, ang pinakamalapit at mababa sa 9? Answer, 8. Kaya maging x to the 8th yan, times ilan ang kulang? 1. Kaya x, and 8 plus 1 is 9. Kaya ang unang factor pwede lang lumabas. At perfect square siya. Yes. Ano ang square root ng x to the 8th power? Copy x, tapos 8 divided by 2 na index, that's 4. Tapos ang second factor na hindi pwede lumabas, kaya sa loob lang siya. Ang may iwan, final answer, x to the 4th is square root of x. Take note na mababa dapat ang exponent kaysa sa index. Second question or example. The cube root of m to the 17th power. How? Same process. Breakdown ng m to the 17th power. Copy muna natin ang cube root of. Ano ang multiple ng 3 na pinakamalapit pero mas mababa sa 17? Answer, 15. Ito ay magiging m to the 15th power times 2. Ang unang factor ay pwede na lumabas. The cube root of m to the 15th, copy m. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Kaya ito ay m to the 5th power. May iwan ang m squared sa loob ng cube root of. Final answer, m to the 5th, the cube root of m squared. Mababa ang exponent ng radical kaysa sa index. And this is how we simplify radical expressions. Thank you. Hello, I'm Keisha Winter. Welcome. Today we are going to tackle about adding and subtracting radicals. When are we allowed to combine radicals? Only similar radicals can be combined. Similar radicals have the same indices and the same radicands. How can we differ similar and dissimilar radicals? The square root of 2, the square root of 2, and a cube of 5 and a cube of 5 are both the same, so they are both similar. And the cube of 10 and the square root of 10, different indices, but same radicands, they are still dissimilar. So is 3 the 4th root of 7 and 3 4th root of 9. Same indices, different radicands, so they are still dissimilar. Now let's proceed to adding and subtracting radicals. Adding and subtracting similar radicals. Add or subtract the coefficients of the similar radicals and then copy the common radical. Example number 1, the square root of 6 plus the square root of 6 equals 1 for the first term and 2 for the second term, then copy the radical. Square root of 6, simplify. 1 plus 1 equals 2, copy the square root of 6. Final answer, 2 and square root of 6. Example number 2. 11x square root of 2 minus 5x square root of 2. Copy 11x, operation is subtraction. Minus 5x, copy the common radical, which is square root of 2. 11x minus 5x equals 6x, copy square root of 2. Final answer, 6x square root of 2. Now let us proceed on adding and subtracting dissimilar radicals. If the radicals are dissimilar, sometimes we need to simplify the radical expression first to make them similar. Then perform the operations by applying the rule in adding and subtracting similar radicals. First example, the square root of 50 plus the square root of 32. Think of a highest perfect square factor of 50. Answer, 25. It means square root of 50 can be square root of 25. Times, what will you multiply to 25 to be able to get 50? Answer, 2. So you replace 50 to 25 times to have a perfect square factor. Plus, second term, highest perfect square root of 32. Answer, 16. We have 16 times 2. Next, simplify. Square root of 25 is 5. 2 will be left inside because it is not a perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 2 will be left. It is now similar. Now combine 5 plus 4 into square root of 2. Simplify. Final answer, 9 in the square root of 2. Second example, subtraction. Square root of 12x cubed minus square root of 27 cubed. 12 may be 4 times 3. Highest multiple of 2 that is lower than 3. Answer, 2. X squared times x is x cubed minus, same process, 27 has the highest factor of 9. So it will be 9 times 3. X cubed will be x squared times x. Simplify. 4 will be 2. X squared will be x. So 3x will be left. 9 will be 3. X squared will be x. And 3x will be left. It is now similar. Now combine. We have 2x minus 3x. Copy common radical, which is square root of 3x. Simplify. 2x equals 3x equals negative x. Copy square root of 3x. Final answer equals x square root of 3x. And that is how to add and subtract radicals. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jessie Makeban and welcome to our video tutorial. Today we will gonna talk about multiplying radicals with the same indices. Always remember that when we are multiplying radicals with the same indices, we can multiply them by applying the multiplication property of radicals. Multiplication property of radicals, this is the n root of x times the n root of y is equal to the n root of x times y. Indices is the plural form of index. While index, ito yung nakikita natin sa buntot ng radical sign and it tells us kung anong radical ang meron tayo. If nakalagay is 3, then we have the cube. And kung wala namang nakalagay, always remember na it is understood na 2 siya or square. So, let's have example. Example number 1. We have the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So, obviously, walang nakalagay, kaya we have indices na 2. So, ipag-multiply natin ang radicands. Square root of 4 and square root of 9. So, 4 times 9 is 36. Then, i-check natin kung pwede bang isimplify ang 36. So, ano nga ba ang square root ng 36? Correct. It's 6. Kaya, yun na ang final answer. So, we have another example. Example number 2. We have 2, the square root of 8 times 3, the square root of 5. So, obviously, meron tayong 2 at 3 na numerical coefficient. Most of the time, sila ang inuuna natin. So, 2 times 3 is 6. Then next, the square root of 8 times the square root of 5 is 40. While 40 is not a perfect square, hahanapin natin siya ng perfect square factor. So, meron tayong 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and 36, and so on. So, hanapin natin ang factor na perfect square ang 40 bukod sa 1. Meron ba? So, wala. Dahil wala, yan na ang final answer. Hi, I'm Jessie Makeban and welcome to our video tutorial. Today, we will gonna talk about multiplying radicals with different indices. So, we have example. We have the cube root of 2 times the square root of 4.
Obviously, hindi pareho ang kanilang indices. Sa first factor, 3 ang nakalagay, while in the second factor, walang nakalagay, but napag-usapan na nga natin na kapag walang nakalagay, it is understood na 2 siya. So, we can't multiply them dahil nga ang indices nila ay hindi pareho. At dahil doon, maaari natin kunin ang LCM ng 3 and 2. Paano nga ba kumukuha ng LCM? Kunin mo lamang ang multiples ng bawat isa. So, ang multiples ng 3 ay 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and so on. While ang multiples ng 2 ay 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. So, saan sila unang nagkapareho? Tama, sa 6, and 6 is their LCM. From 3, para maging 6, we need to multiply it by 2. So, 3 times 2, radical sign 2. So, kailangan nating erase ang ating radicand to the same number na kung saan natin minultiply ang ating index. So, 2 ay ma-erase sa second power. Sa second factor naman, ganun din ang gagawin natin. Para maging 6, we need to multiply 2 in 3. Kung ano ang number na minultiply mo sa index ay ma-erase sa ating radicand. So, 4 raised to the third power. Next, we need to simplify them. 3 times 2, then 2 raised to the second power, then 2 times 3, and 4 raised to the third power, ay magiging 6 root of 4 and 6 root of 64. So, ngayon, pareho na ang ating indices. Maaari na natin silang i-multiply by using the multiplication property of radicals, which is the n root of x times the n root of y is equal to the n root of x times y. So, kokopyahin natin ang 6, then multiply 4 and 64, and it gives us 256, and that's the final answer.
Hi, this is Angel De Jesus and welcome sa ating panibagong video on how to divide radical expressions with the same indices. Let us always remember that if we are dividing radicals with the same indices, we can simplify them by applying the division property of radicals na kung saan sinasabi na ang n root of x over the n root of y is equal to the n root of x over y. Sabi pa sa division property of radicals, kapag dinidivide natin yung radicals with the same indices, we will just simply copy the index, tapos yung radical sign, and pagsamahin mo lang yung parehong radicand ng pagdidivide mo. Pagsamahin mo sila as a simple fraction. To better understand this lesson, let's have some examples. Example number 1, the square root of 8 over the square root of 4. So dahil alam na natin ngayon ang division property of radicals na kung saan pag yung dalawang radicals ay may parehong indices, pwede silang pagsamahin with the same index. Then yung mga radicands magiging fractions na lang sila. So, pag pinagsama natin silang dalawa bilang fractions, magiging the square root of 8 over 4. Obviously, pwede nang masimplify. 8 over 4 is equals to 2. Sa akong example, 4 over the square root of 6. Makikita natin na may radical sign sa denominator. Tandaan natin na bawal magkaroon ng radical sa denominator. So, para matanggal yon, magagawin tayong process which is, ito yung rationalizing the denominator. Ito yung process of eliminating the radical in the denominator. So, yung gagawin lang natin, just copy the given, tapos i-multiply sa radical ng denominator. Example sa ating given, square root of 6. So, i-multiply lang natin siya sa square root of 6 over the square root of 6. So, kapag multiply natin siya, 4 over the square root of 6 times the square root of 6 over the square root of 6 equals 4 the square root of 6 over the square root of 36. So, kapag sinimplify natin siya, 4 the square root of 6 over 6. Ngayon, i-discuss ko naman sa inyo on how to divide the square root of 3 by the cube root of 2. Hindi pwede gamitan ng division property of radicals dito dahil hindi same ang kanilang indices. Kaya, mag-isip tayo ng ibang paraan at isa sa mga paraan na ito ay i-rationalize na yung denominator. Paano nga ba mag-rationalize? Mag-iisip lang tayo ng isang expression na equal to 1. Yun ay radical over radical. What kind of radical? Nakadepende yon sa denominator. Since ito ay cube root, multiply natin siya sa cube root over the cube root. Since cube root ang pinag-uusapan natin, let's think of a cube number that is divisible by our radicand 2. At yun ay 8. Yung 2 para maging 8, ay imumultiply natin by 4. In short, para ma-rationalize yun, imumultiply natin yung bawat expression by the cube root of 4 over the cube root of 4. Now, we have the expression that have the same indices. Pwede nang gamitan ng multiplication property of radicals. Una, kopihin natin yung cube root of, tapos yung 2 times 4, simplify natin. Ayan, okay na yung denominator dahil cube root of 8 is 2. Kaso yung numerator ay hindi pa simplified. Ang gagawin lang natin ay una, kukunin ang LCM ng 2 and 3, which is 6. So, isusulat natin yung buong numerator na yan sa bagong radical na may indices na 6. Magiging ganito, 2 times 3 the square root of 3. Now, the index 2 became 6. Bawal yon kasi nagbabago yung value natin. To offset that, ang kailangan natin gawin ay yung radical dito, erase din natin sa index. So, this will become 2 raised to the third power. Same with the second factor. Ganon din yung gagawin natin, kaya magiging ganito na sila. 2 times 3, the square root of 3 raised to the third power, times 3 times 2 raised to the square root of 4 raised to the second power over 2. Then we will simplify it. 6 square root of 27 times 6 the square root of 16 over 2. Now, their indices is now the same. Pwede na i-apply ang multiplication property of radicals to simplify the numerator. Kaya yan ay magiging the 6 root of 432 over 2. And that's the final answer.
Hi, I'm Anderson D. Arcilia and welcome sa ating tutorial on finding the conjugate of an expression and how to use it. Conjugate is only being used on binomials o yung mga expression na may two terms. Ngayon, paano nga ba kinukuha ang conjugate ng isang binomial? The conjugate is where we negate the operation between two terms. This simply means na kailangan natin baliktarin o gawing opposite ang operation ng dalawang term. Let's have examples. Nakikita natin sa mga examples kung paano nakukuha ang conjugating expression, katulad na lang ng example number 1 na a plus b. Ninegate natin ito and it became a minus b. Ganon din ang ginawa natin sa ibang examples. X plus 8 na naging x minus 8 and the square root of 25 minus the square root of 9 na naging the square root of 25 plus the square root of 9 na conjugate ng given binomial. Ngayon, ano na yung gagawin natin kapag nakuha na natin ang conjugate ng given binomials? Pinag-aralan natin sa grade 8 mathematics ang sum and difference of two binomials. Minultiply natin ang binomials na the quantity of x plus y times the quantity of x minus y, na may parehong terms sa isa't isa at nakuha natin ang answer na x squared minus y squared. Dito, laging subtraction ang operation ng answers at tinatawag ding the difference of two squares. Ngayon, try naman natin kunin ang product ng mga given binomials and conjugates kanina. Ang product ng example number 1 is a squared minus b squared and example number 2 is x squared minus 64. Ngayon, kung napapansin natin, natanggal ang square root symbol sa item number 3 dahil naging squared ang dalawang radical at sa loss of radical, tinatanggal na ang symbol na square root kapag nagkaroon ng square ang radical. Kaya, sinabtract natin ito at na-simplify at ang answer ay 16. Para mas maintindihan ang lesson, let's have examples. Rationalizing a binomial denominator with radicals. 3 over 7 plus the square root of 18. May radical na example natin and paano natin ito tatanggalin? Gagamitin natin ang conjugate method para matanggal to. 3 over 7 plus the square root of 18 times 7 minus the square root of 18 over 7 minus the square root of 18. Kinuha natin ang conjugate ng denominator. Kailangan laging equal to 1 ang conjugate nito para hindi magbago ang value ng given natin. Ngayon, kunin na natin ang product. Ang answer ay 21 minus 7 the square root of 18 over 49 minus 18. Ngayon, nakuha na natin ang product. Kailangan naman natin ito i-simplify. 21 minus 7 the square root of 18 over 49 minus 18. Ang answer ay 21 minus 7 the square root of 18 over 31. Let's have another example. 4 over the square root of 6 plus the square root of 2. Kagaya ng kanina, we will also find the conjugate of the denominator and multiply it. Ang answer ay 4 the square root of 6 minus 4 the square root of 2 over 6 minus 2. Ngayon na multiply na natin, kailangan natin may simplify ito. 4 the square root of 6 minus 4 the square root of 2 over 4. Pwede pa natin itong i-divide o masimplify. The square root of 6 minus the square root of 2. At ayan na ang final answer natin. I hope na may natutunan kayo sa tutorial na ito. That's all. Thank you.